Reality is not as solid as it seems. Behind the tangible world, the buildings, the roads, the routines, is an invisible field of potential. Everything you know to be true, from the chair you're sitting on to the thoughts running through your mind, is built on patterns of energy and information. But here's the radical twist. That energy might be connected across vast distances, across time, and even across the multiverse of potential realities. And it's connected in such a way that a single change here, your attention, your thought, your intention, can trigger a corresponding shift there. Welcome to the strange and astonishing realm of quantum entanglement. In this video, you're going to uncover how quantum entanglement, a concept once ridiculed by even the most brilliant minds in physics, could hold the key to reshaping your experience of life. This isn't theoretical fluff or pseudoscience masquerading as fact. This is about connecting the rigor of quantum mechanics with the tools of awareness, intention, and focus. The goal is to understand how the most bizarre aspects of the subatomic world may explain phenomena many dismiss as coincidence or fantasy. Sudden manifestations, shared thoughts, emotional resonance, and inexplicable synchronicities. You'll learn how scientists discovered that particles can be mysteriously linked, responding to each other across massive distances with no known communication. You'll see how these findings may not be limited to labs and microscopes, but may be directly influencing the world around you. You'll explore why Einstein feared what he couldn't explain, and how current experiments are starting to map what spiritual traditions have long suggested, that everything is connected, and consciousness might be the bridge. Through a clear and grounded breakdown, you'll go beyond the jargon and technicalities. You'll understand what it means to live in a quantum-connected world, and more importantly, how to work with those invisible threads to align your external world with your internal desire. Thought isn't just internal noise, it's a directional tool. Intention isn't just a mindset, it's a force that might shape probabilities. You are not a passive observer of reality. You're part of a much larger and far more intelligent system. A system that responds, adapts, and entangles itself with you. So, if you've ever sensed that there's more to life than cause and effect, if you've noticed that when you focus your attention, strange coincidences follow, if you've wondered whether you're tapping into something deeper, something usually unseen, then this is the explanation you've been waiting for. Let's break the illusion of separation. Let's examine the quantum link that science barely understands, and that you may already be using without even realizing it. This isn't about escaping reality. It's about understanding how it truly works. When Albert Einstein looked at the equations coming out of quantum mechanics in the early 20th century, something deeply unsettled him. It wasn't the unpredictability or the abstraction. It was the idea that particles could somehow be connected in ways that defied the speed of light. He famously referred to this phenomenon as spooky action at a distance. It challenged everything he believed about locality, causality, and the fundamental rules of space and time. Yet over a century later, what was once a disturbing side note in theoretical physics has become one of its most well-documented and mystifying discoveries. Quantum entanglement is the term physicists use to describe the phenomenon where two or more particles become linked in such a way that the state of one instantly influences the state of the other, no matter how far apart they are. This isn't metaphor or exaggeration. When two particles are entangled, a change in one is reflected in the other in real time, even if they are light years apart. No signal passes between them, no detectable force connects them, and yet the relationship persists. Let's look at the simplicity of the idea with a useful analogy. Picture a pair of gloves, one left, one right. You put each glove in a separate box and send them to opposite ends of the earth. The moment you open one box and see the left glove, you instantly know the other contains the right. But in the quantum world, it's not that simple. In quantum mechanics, the gloves aren't definitively left or right until someone opens a box. They exist in a state of probability, a superposition of both possibilities. And it's only when one is observed that the other's identity becomes certain. This is the strangeness of quantum entanglement. It's not just information you discover. It's reality you create by observing it. Now, this concept was tested in multiple laboratory conditions. One of the most groundbreaking validations came through the Bell test experiments, named after physicist John Bell. His work proposed a set of mathematical inequalities that should be satisfied if local realism, Einstein's worldview, was correct. But these inequalities were violated repeatedly in experiments across the globe. In 2015, multiple labs conducted loophole-free Bell tests, confirming that entangled particles were influencing each other in a manner completely incompatible with classical physics. Why does this matter to your life? Because if reality at its most fundamental level behaves non-locally, meaning that parts of the universe are instantly linked regardless of space, then the assumptions you make about time, space, and individuality are incomplete. You are not an isolated self bouncing around in a cold, separate world. You are part of a field that responds and reflects faster than any signal can travel. This raises important questions. If particles can be entangled across distance, what about minds? Emotions? Could human consciousness itself exhibit forms of entanglement? Though mainstream science doesn't have a solid framework for this yet, a growing body of interdisciplinary research is exploring these connections. The Institute of Noetic Sciences and other research centers are investigating how intention and observation might affect physical systems, from water molecules to random number generators. And results continue to point toward the possibility that mind and matter are more closely linked than previously thought. Let's bring this back to your direct experience. Think about the times you've thought about someone, only for them to contact you seconds later. Or those moments when you feel something is about to happen, and it does. Are these just chance? Skeptics call them coincidences, but a quantum-aware perspective suggests they might be signals of a deeper connectivity. Your thoughts may not simply arise within your brain. They might be forming within an entangled network, one where emotional, energetic, and even subconscious information travels outside of linear time. This is where entanglement begins to cross the threshold from physics into metaphysics. The phenomenon isn't just about particles, it might hint at a unified field, one where every conscious entity is a node. And that field could be sensitive to alignment. When you feel connected to someone, you may not just be resonating with them emotionally, you could be quantumly linked. Einstein wasn't wrong to be unnerved. He understood the implications. If entanglement is real, and it has been demonstrated over and over, then we are forced to reconsider the foundations of identity, agency, and influence. You don't need wires, proximity, or language to affect the world around you. You need awareness of your role in the entangled system. You need clarity of thought, strength of intention, and the discipline to choose what frequency you occupy. So, why does any of this help you shift your reality? Because when you begin to think of reality as a network, rather than a series of isolated events, you realize that small internal changes can trigger massive external responses. Your thoughts aren't floating in a vacuum. They're inputs into an interconnected field. That means every time you shift your belief, every time you change your focus, every time you refine your emotional state, you might be tugging on strands that run through the entire structure of reality. Quantum entanglement isn't just a scientific curiosity. It's a doorway to a new understanding of possibility. And the further you explore it, the more you realize this truth. You're not waiting on reality to catch up to your dreams. You're already connected to them. And now that you know that connection is real, the next step is to understand who or what you're already entangled with. You are not a solitary entity drifting through a disconnected universe. Despite the illusion of separation, the deeper structure of reality suggests that you are woven into an intricate network, one that links your mind, your body, your energy, and your awareness to countless other points of consciousness. Quantum entanglement doesn't end with particles. If the laws of physics apply universally, then the principle of entanglement may scale up in ways we're only beginning to grasp. And here's the critical question. If entanglement occurs naturally, then what exactly are you already entangled with? The notion that human beings could be entangled with people, events, ideas, or even potential versions of themselves challenges everything we've been taught about individuality and free will. Yet this idea keeps resurfacing across traditions, disciplines, and even modern scientific frameworks. Let's break it down clearly. First, recall the essence of quantum entanglement. Two or more particles become connected in such a way that the state of one cannot be described independently of the other, even when they are separated by massive distances. Now imagine that this isn't just a property of electrons and photons, but of the very fabric of consciousness. When you interact deeply with another person, when you share a moment of emotional intensity, or when you make a pivotal decision, you may be doing more than just creating memories. You might be generating entangled connections, links that persist beyond time and space. This concept aligns surprisingly well with certain psychological and spiritual observations. Think about the experience of intuition. You sense that someone is in trouble without any direct communication. You feel a pull toward a location or a person with no rational explanation. You just know something is about to happen. These moments, often dismissed as coincidence or subconscious inference, could be the signature of entangled consciousness at work. Researchers have attempted to quantify and study these effects. While mainstream science remains cautious, a number of reputable institutions have documented anomalies that defy standard models. For instance, experiments involving pairs of individuals separated by distance have shown that changes in the brainwave patterns of one subject can influence the neural activity of the other, especially when there is a close emotional bond. These results are far from conclusive, but they point to a compelling possibility. Our connections to others may be more than emotional. They may be energetic and quantum-level links. But entanglement doesn't stop with people. It may extend to ideas, belief systems, and even timelines. Let's explore the idea of parallel realities. Multiple versions of events or outcomes existing simultaneously. If consciousness is not strictly localized to the body but exists within or interacts with a field, then your awareness could already be touching other versions of yourself. You, right now, are potentially entangled with different versions of you. The one who made a different choice yesterday, the one who pursued another passion, the one who followed a different path. This is not fantasy. Quantum superposition states that particles can exist in multiple states at once until observed. Translate this idea into human experience, and it suggests that your future is not a single straight line. It's a spectrum of outcomes, each waiting to be collapsed by observation, decision, and focus. The act of entanglement may be what determines which path becomes real for you. So, who or what are you currently entangled with? You may be linked to emotional experiences from your past. You may be tethered energetically to unresolved memories, relationships, or traumas. You may be entangled with habitual thoughts that reinforce a certain identity. Every time you replay the same worry, you're reinforcing your bond to the version of reality where that worry is true. Every time you revisit an old success, you strengthen your resonance with the frequency of achievement. Entanglement doesn't care about moral judgment. It simply reflects attention and emotional charge. This is why some people find themselves repeating patterns no matter how hard they try to change. They're unconsciously reinforcing entangled relationships with a specific identity, a specific story. The more you think, feel, and behave in a certain way, the more your consciousness syncs with the version of reality that matches it. This is the feedback loop of entanglement in everyday life. Now, let's flip that understanding into empowerment. If entanglement reflects where your attention and energy flow, then shifting your point of focus can alter the network of connections. Start thinking about success, and you begin to entangle with its frequency. Start cultivating gratitude, and you begin resonating with outcomes that match abundance. This isn't metaphor, it's alignment within a field where connection determines outcome. Let's talk about emotions. Emotional resonance is a powerful clue that quantum entanglement may be happening at a more complex level than we've yet understood. When two people fall in love, when they grieve together, or when they share a deeply spiritual moment, their emotional states often become synchronized. This is more than empathy, it may be evidence that they are linked through non-local channels, a form of bioenergetic or consciousness-based entanglement. This helps explain why we sometimes feel the emotions of others, even without communication. Parents often sense when their children are in distress, even across continents. Longtime partners often think the same thought at the same time, or call each other seconds apart. These aren't random quirks, they may be signals from an entangled system. Now extend the same concept inward. You can be emotionally entangled with alternate versions of yourself. If the version of you who is courageous, successful, and fulfilled already exists as a potential reality, then by aligning emotionally with that version, through visualization, belief, and energetic congruence, you begin to draw that version closer into your current timeline. This is not daydreaming. This is conscious tuning. You're not asking for something external to come to you. You're syncing with a frequency that already exists. Let's also consider entanglement with collective consciousness. Humanity shares more than DNA. We share patterns of thought, cultural narratives, and emotional waves. Large-scale events affect people worldwide not just through media or exposure, but through resonance. The global field of consciousness, what some refer to as the noosphere, could be a massive entangled structure, constantly shifting based on dominant thought forms and emotional undercurrents. Understanding this empowers you to become a conscious participant, not just a passive receiver. If you feed anxiety into the field, you reinforce global anxiety. If you cultivate clarity, love, and centeredness, you reinforce those states in the field. Your thoughts don't stay inside your mind. They echo, ripple, and entangle. This insight offers profound implications for manifestation, healing, and personal transformation. You are not summoning a better life from somewhere out there. You are linking to it internally and allowing that linkage to reflect outwardly. The process is less about control and more about coherence. The clearer your emotional and mental state, the stronger the entanglement with the reality you wish to experience. You don't need to understand every nuance of quantum mechanics to apply this. What matters is knowing that your consciousness doesn't operate in isolation. It's embedded in a web of connections, some formed intentionally, others unconsciously. Your task is to become more aware of those links, more selective with your attention, and more deliberate with your energy. You are already entangled. The question is, with what frequencies? With which identities? With what version of your future? And now that you've begun to see the invisible architecture of your experience, it's time to explore one of the most fascinating discoveries in all of quantum science. A discovery that changes how we understand choice, perception, and the creation of reality itself. The observer effect. Let's move there next. Reality does not passively exist, waiting to be perceived. The world you live in is not entirely independent from your observation of it. One of the most unnerving revelations of modern physics is this: observation changes outcome. The universe reacts to awareness, and that leads to a startling proposition. Not only are you part of reality, but your very attention helps define what reality becomes. This principle, known as the observer effect, isn't speculative. It's a documented, repeatable finding that first emerged from one of the most famous experiments in the history of quantum physics, the double-slit experiment. When light is shined through two slits and no one watches which slit it passes through, the result is an interference pattern, a series of bright and dark bands, suggesting that the photons behave like waves, going through both slits at once. But if you observe which slit a photon goes through, the interference pattern disappears. The photon acts like a particle. Your act of observation changes its behavior. Pause and consider that for a moment. Merely observing something, not touching it, not influencing it physically, but watching it, causes it to behave differently. The photon, in some strange way, knows it is being watched. Now apply that logic to your daily life. Every thought, every choice, every focus of attention is a form of observation. You're not merely looking at reality, you are interacting with it in ways that are deeper than physical action. This suggests that reality is not fully determined until it is perceived. In other words, your attention may be what selects one possibility out of many. You don't just witness outcomes, you help determine them. This flips conventional understanding on its head. It means you're not just living in a universe governed by rigid cause and effect. You're living in a participatory universe, where your consciousness plays an integral role in shaping the outcome of every moment. This aligns not only with quantum physics but with countless spiritual and esoteric traditions that have long held awareness as the primary tool of creation. Let's unpack this in practical terms. Your attention is more powerful than you think. Every time you focus on something, whether it's a worry, a dream, a plan, or a problem, you're casting a vote in the field of probabilities. You're locking in a version of events by giving it mental energy. This is not metaphor. If observation collapses a wave function into a specific outcome, then what you observe, what you truly focus on, begins to crystallize into your reality. This explains why negative thinking so often leads to more negative experiences. It's not just that you're pessimistic. It's that you're channeling your focus into the version of reality where things go wrong. You're reinforcing that pathway. The more attention you feed it, the more solid it becomes. But here's the liberating truth. You can reverse this. You can train your awareness to lock onto different outcomes, ones that serve your purpose, reflect your desire, and amplify your potential. You're not locked into your current trajectory. The moment you shift your focus, you begin to shift the version of reality that's taking form around you. The observer effect also helps explain why practicing gratitude, visualizing success, and embodying confidence seem to open doors that previously felt shut. These aren't just psychological tricks. They're directional tools, ways of focusing your awareness so that you collapse outcomes aligned with your inner vision. Let's go deeper. Your mind doesn't operate in isolation. Thoughts are not just fleeting sparks in your brain. They are energetic patterns, and when focused with intent, they create resonance. That resonance interacts with the field of possibility, the quantum field where countless outcomes await activation. Your focused awareness acts like a tuning fork, syncing you with the version of events most closely aligned with your dominant state of consciousness. And this is key. It's not just what you want that determines outcome. It's what you observe repeatedly and what you feel while observing it. The combination of focused awareness and emotional charge is what imprints reality. So if you're observing your life through a lens of lack, fear, or limitation, even if unintentionally, you're energizing the outcomes that mirror those frequencies. Conversely, if you train your mind to observe through possibility, abundance, and alignment, you energize those outcomes instead. This also sheds light on synchronicities, those strange, meaningful coincidences that seem to defy logic. The more you focus on something, the more reality starts reflecting it back to you. It's not because you're attracting it in a magical way. It's because your observation is collapsing outcomes that match your focus. You're not seeing signs because they appear randomly. You're seeing them because your awareness is entangled with that frequency. There's another dimension to this. In quantum experiments, it doesn't even require a conscious human observer to collapse the wave function. Even recording equipment that merely registers the path of a particle can change the outcome. This suggests that reality isn't just responsive to human minds, it's responsive to the very act of measurement, to the presence of any system capable of distinguishing one outcome from another. But human observation adds something extra: intention. You are not just recording reality. You're choosing where to place your consciousness and what kind of outcome you want to observe. That makes your role not just that of an observer, but a creator. Now ask yourself, how often do you observe what you don't want? How often do you replay the worst-case scenario, the unresolved regret, or the anticipated disappointment? These acts of observation, repeated day after day, condition your awareness to stabilize those outcomes. You become a precise match for the reality you least desire, not by wanting it, but by observing it consistently. Awareness is your most valuable resource. It is the selector of worlds. The more skillfully you direct it, the more consciously you shape the timeline you inhabit. The observer effect teaches us that reality is not an independent machine grinding forward through time. It's more like a living mirror, constantly responding to the direction and quality of your attention. When you change the lens through which you look at life, you change what life reflects back. This also reframes the concept of being present. Many people treat presence as a passive state, a form of disengagement from thoughts of past and future. But true presence, through the lens of quantum physics, is an incredibly active state. It is the moment where observation is strongest and creation is most immediate. The now is where your awareness has maximum impact. So if you're observing your life from a place of clarity, groundedness, and intention right now, you're influencing the pattern that unfolds next. The more present you become, the more control you gain over what wave collapses into your experience. That's why certain spiritual disciplines emphasize mindfulness and breath control, not as escapism, but as tools to strengthen the power of observation. When your awareness is no longer scattered by fear, regret, or distraction, it becomes laser-focused. And in that focus lies the ability to shift your state and, with it, your reality. There's one more insight here. The observer effect is not just a scientific principle. It's a reminder of your agency. Too many people wait for proof, for circumstances to change, for external validation. But the quantum framework suggests that reality changes after you begin to observe it differently, not before. The proof doesn't come first. The perception does. So if you're waiting for your life to change so you can feel empowered, you may be stuck in the wrong loop. You must begin observing through the lens of empowerment, even before the evidence appears. Because your focused attention right now may be the very force that causes the shift. You are not a passenger on this journey. You are the measurement device. You are the observer. And that makes you the one collapsing infinite possibilities into a single path again and again. And now that you understand how observation shapes outcomes, it's time to explore how to use this understanding to shift your position in reality itself, to move from one version of your life to another, just like a quantum system jumping between states. Let's now examine how to collapse a parallel reality and consciously select a new version of yourself. Reality at its core is not singular. It is layered, shifting, and branching. Every decision, every observation, and every shift in emotional frequency places you on a trajectory that intersects with one of countless possible outcomes. These outcomes are not distant dreams or unreachable fantasies. They are parallel versions of your life, already in existence at the level of quantum potential. The only question is, how do you consciously move from the reality you're currently experiencing to one that reflects your highest intention? To answer that, we must understand what it means to collapse a potential. In quantum mechanics, systems don't exist in one fixed state until they are measured. Instead, they remain in superposition, a range of possible states simultaneously. It is only upon measurement or observation that the system chooses a particular configuration. This is not metaphorical. This is how subatomic particles operate. Now consider that you, too, are part of this dynamic system. You are not stuck in one version of your life. You are surrounded by probabilities, branches of reality that exist side by side in the quantum field. Each potential version of you already exists in that field. The successful you, the healthy you, the joyful, fulfilled, empowered you. These are not goals to achieve. They are frequencies to align with. Collapsing a parallel reality means locking into one of these frequencies so completely that it becomes your dominant experience. It's the process of identifying with a new version of yourself so fully that your current circumstances reorganize to match it. You don't change the world by force. You change your relationship to it, and that shift reorganizes what shows up in your path. This begins with clarity. You cannot align with what you haven't defined. Most people focus on what they don't want. They dwell on fears, complaints, regrets, and limitations. They speak in terms of avoidance and survival. As a result, they stabilize the version of reality where those conditions persist. To shift realities, you must redirect your awareness toward a specific, coherent, emotionally resonant outcome. This is not about wishful thinking. It is about vibrational alignment. Let's take a deeper look at what that means. Every thought has a frequency. Every emotion has a vibration. When your inner state matches the state of the version of you that already has what you desire, you initiate a collapse into that timeline. This is why visualizing the outcome isn't enough. You must feel it, embody it, and maintain that state even when external circumstances haven't yet caught up. This is one of the most misunderstood aspects of personal transformation. People wait to feel confident until they have success. They wait to feel love until someone shows up. They wait to feel abundant until money arrives. But the quantum model suggests that the feeling must come first. It is the signal that entangles you with the timeline where that reality is already true. This is where identity becomes the key. Identity is not fixed. It is fluid, and it's constructed by patterns of thought, emotion, and behavior. When you continue to think the same thoughts and feel the same emotions, you reinforce the same identity. And your identity is the tuning fork that locks you into a specific version of reality. To shift into a parallel timeline, you must first shift identity. You must become the person who already lives that life, not later, not someday, but now. This means aligning your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors with the state of that version of you. What does that version believe? How does that version feel each day? What actions does that version take? These are not philosophical questions. They are practical levers that move your awareness from one timeline to another. This process doesn't require massive effort. It requires internal coherence. When your thoughts, feelings, and actions match the version of you in the desired reality, you collapse the wave function into that experience. The shift happens on the inside first. But here's the catch. The current version of your reality will try to pull you back. Old thoughts will surface. Familiar emotions will arise. Past habits will tempt you to repeat themselves. This is not resistance from the universe. It is the momentum of the timeline you've been living in. To transition to a new one, you must learn to override that momentum with conscious choice. This is why daily repetition matters. It's not just about manifesting something, it's about stabilizing your consciousness on a different frequency. That's how you stay in the new timeline long enough for it to become your new normal. Let's get specific. Each morning, start by defining the version of reality you wish to collapse into. Don't speak in vague terms. Be precise. Name it. Feel it. Visualize it as already present. Not as something coming, but as something active. This primes your subconscious to match your current identity to that desired state. Next, ask yourself, what would this version of me do today? Let the answer guide your behavior. This creates coherence between your intention and your action. That coherence is magnetic. It draws experiences, people, and opportunities that match the new timeline. But visualization and behavioral shifts aren't enough on their own. You must regulate your emotional state. If you desire abundance but live in anxiety, you're aligning with the absence of your desire. If you seek love but dwell in fear of rejection, you're entangling with loneliness. The emotional frequency you embody is the strongest selector of parallel realities. The tool here is emotional rehearsal. Just as athletes mentally rehearse their performance, you must emotionally rehearse the experience of your desired timeline. Feel the joy, peace, confidence, or freedom that your chosen reality carries. Let those emotions become familiar. Make them your baseline. That emotional familiarity helps stabilize your entanglement with that timeline. Now let's address time. Many people believe that shifts take time. They expect gradual progress. But quantum events don't unfold gradually. They happen suddenly, like a particle snapping into place after being observed. This means your reality can shift in an instant the moment your internal state fully aligns with the new outcome. That alignment is not a long process. It's a clear decision followed by consistent embodiment. Does this mean you'll wake up tomorrow with a completely different life? Not necessarily. Reality often rearranges itself through steps, events, and synchronicities. But the inner shift, the collapse into the new identity, can happen instantly. The outer world simply takes the time it needs to reflect that new alignment. Here's another point of clarity. You're not jumping through physical space. You're shifting in frequency. Think of radio stations. All frequencies exist simultaneously, but you only hear the one you're tuned into. Your awareness is the tuner. Your thoughts and emotions are the dial. The version of your life you want already exists. It's simply on a frequency you must match. This reframes the way you approach change. You don't need to get anything. You need to match it. You don't need to create success. You need to tune into it. This approach removes the struggle and puts the focus back where it belongs, on your internal state. Now, what happens when you begin to shift but the outside world doesn't reflect it immediately? Hold the frequency. That's the test. The old timeline is fading, but its residue still lingers. The worst thing you can do is revert your internal state in response to old evidence. That's like tuning the radio to a new station but switching back because you heard static for a moment. Stay tuned. Trust the signal. Let reality catch up. This is not blind faith. It is quantum discipline. You are building the muscle of energetic coherence, and that takes repetition. So, to collapse a parallel reality and step into a new one, Define the version of you that already lives in your desired timeline. Shift your thoughts, emotions, and actions to match that version. Practice emotional rehearsal to stabilize the frequency. Ignore temporary contradictions in the external world. Maintain alignment until the shift is reflected physically. This process is not mystical. It is mechanical. Just as a laser forms from waves moving in perfect coherence, your new reality forms when your inner world reaches vibrational clarity. You are not hoping. You are selecting. You are not waiting. You are shifting. And once you understand that, the next question becomes clear. Are the breakthroughs you experience the result of chance? Or is something deeper happening beneath the surface? That's where we go next. There's a moment, often subtle, sometimes dramatic, when something you've been thinking about suddenly appears in your life. A job offer, an opportunity, a phone call, person. You didn't force it. You didn't chase it. You simply thought it, maybe visualized it, and then reality responded. To most people, this feels like coincidence, an amusing alignment of chance and desire. But when these moments begin happening frequently, consistently, and predictably, coincidence no longer fits the explanation. Something else is at work. And that something is manifestation. The term manifestation has been wrapped in layers of cultural baggage. It's often dismissed as wishful thinking or magical fantasy. But at its core, manifestation is not about magic. It's about alignment. It's about the interaction between your internal state, your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and the field of infinite potential that surrounds you. So when a desire materializes out of nowhere, when something shows up the moment you let go of struggle, is it just random luck? Or have you shifted into a reality where that outcome was always waiting? To answer this, we need to go back to the fundamental premise of quantum mechanics: probability. In the quantum field, nothing is fixed until it is observed. Everything exists as a range of potential outcomes. Each possibility is real, but not all are expressed. What determines which one becomes your experience? The answer is resonance. Your internal state functions as a filter that selects, from the infinite quantum soup, the version of events that matches your dominant vibration. This is not metaphor. It's frequency. It's coherence. And it explains why sudden manifestations feel so seamless. They don't come from outside you. They are accessed through alignment with a version of reality where they already exist. This is why trying harder doesn't always work. Effort without energetic alignment creates resistance. You can chase a goal with intensity, but if your thoughts and emotions are reinforcing lack, the quantum field will continue reflecting that absence. On the other hand, when your energy matches the reality you desire, effort becomes minimal. The outcome shows up not because you forced it, but because you matched it. Let's break down how this works in practical terms. Every desire you have exists in two forms. First, as an imagined future. Second, as a parallel reality that already exists in the field. The moment you imagine something with enough clarity and emotional intensity, you begin to entangle with the version of yourself who already lives in that outcome. Your job isn't to bring it into your life. Your job is to become a match for the version of reality where it already is. This is the mechanism behind instant manifestation. It's not that you're summoning something new into existence. You're accessing something that was always there, waiting for a coherent signal. That signal is your emotional frequency combined with mental clarity. Now, let's address the difference between passive wishing and conscious manifestation. Wishing is hoping something will happen while continuing to identify with the version of yourself that doesn't have it. Manifestation is assuming the state of being where the outcome already exists. It's a subtle but powerful difference. For example, if you desire financial abundance but constantly think about debt, stress about bills, or feel anxious about your future, your signal is mismatched. You are vibrating at the frequency of lack, even though you want prosperity. The quantum field responds to the vibration, not the request. The shift happens when you stop asking and start aligning. When you think, speak, and act as if the desired outcome is already your reality, you enter into harmony with that version of the world. This is not pretending. It's choosing your signal. It's selecting which frequency you want to broadcast into the field. But why does manifestation sometimes feel instant and other times painfully slow? The speed of manifestation depends on two things: the strength of your emotional coherence and the absence of contradictory beliefs. If your desire is backed by clear emotion and no internal resistance, the shift can happen rapidly. The new timeline is close in vibrational proximity, and your awareness locks into it easily. However, if you hold unconscious beliefs that conflict with your desire, beliefs about your worth, your capability, or what's possible for you, those act as blockers. You may visualize abundance, but if you secretly believe you don't deserve it, you're broadcasting two conflicting signals. The result is delay, distortion, or repeated patterns. This is why internal alignment is everything. You must become ruthlessly honest about the beliefs you carry. You must observe your thoughts and emotions not as noise, but as indicators of your current frequency. Are you aligned with the version of reality you want, or are you reinforcing the one you want to leave behind? Here's where manifestation becomes a daily discipline, not just a mental exercise. Your reality is not created in one giant decision. It's shaped by thousands of small moments each day, each thought, each reaction, each belief, each expectation. Every one of those is a vote for a specific timeline. If you want instant manifestation to become your norm, you must become aware of these micro-moments. You must train your awareness to stay focused on the reality you choose. This doesn't mean ignoring current circumstances. It means refusing to give them emotional power. You acknowledge what is, but you choose to feed your energy into what's becoming. That choice becomes your anchor. That focus becomes your signal. Let's also consider the role of surrender. Many people block manifestations by holding too tightly to outcomes. They obsess, control, overthink. But the quantum field is most responsive when you allow space. Surrender isn't about giving up. It's about releasing resistance. It's about trusting that once you've matched the vibration, the external reality must follow because it has no choice. The field cannot reflect something that isn't present in your awareness. So when you feel the desire clearly, align emotionally, and take action from that state, the next step is to step back. Let go of the how and when. The need to control those variables comes from doubt. And doubt is a disruptive frequency. It scatters your signal. This is why people often report that desires show up the moment they forget about them. It's not that forgetting is magical. It's that, in forgetting, they release resistance. They stop broadcasting worry. Their vibration stabilizes. The signal becomes clean, and reality responds. Now let's address a skeptical question. Are these experiences really quantum? Or are they just coincidences? To the linear mind, everything is coincidence. That's how it protects its current model of reality. But when results become repeatable, when focus, emotion, and intention produce consistent external shifts, you're no longer in the realm of chance. You're seeing evidence of a field that responds to consciousness. You don't need to label it mystical or scientific. You only need to recognize the pattern. Your inner world creates feedback in your outer world. The more coherent your energy, the faster and more precise that feedback becomes. So what are the mechanics of instant manifestation? Clarity of desire. You must know exactly what you're aligning with. Emotional resonance. You must feel the state of the outcome as if it's already true. Release of resistance. You must let go of beliefs that contradict your desire. Consistent focus. You must stabilize your signal through daily awareness. Inspired action. You must move in alignment with the version of reality you've chosen. When these 5 elements are present, the shift can be instantaneous. The desired outcome doesn't come from the outside, it emerges into your experience because you've become the version of you that it naturally belongs to. At this point, you've seen the science. You've understood the mechanics. You've felt the logic of this invisible structure. Now, it's time to move from understanding to application. The final step is practical. It's not about theory. It's about what you can do today, tomorrow, and every day to harness these principles and live in conscious alignment with your desired timeline. Let's move there now. You are already interacting with the quantum field. Every thought you have, every emotional wave you ride, every belief you carry, these are not isolated events within your mind. They are inputs, signals, instructions being fed into a responsive system of infinite potential. The question is not if you're shaping your reality. The question is how consciously you're doing it. So far, you've seen how quantum entanglement, the observer effect, and vibrational alignment converge into a profound truth. Reality isn't something fixed that happens to you. It's something fluid, energetic, and reactive. It's responding not just to what you say, but to who you are being in every moment. This final part is about giving you tools, not abstract concepts, but practices. It's about becoming aware of the mechanics behind your experiences and learning how to deliberately shape the path ahead. You don't have to understand every nuance of quantum theory. You just have to understand yourself. Let's begin with the foundation of all reality shifting: awareness. Awareness is your control panel. Without it, you operate on autopilot, reinforcing the same version of life you've always known. But with awareness, you become conscious of your choices, your signals, and your alignment. That's when you move from reaction to creation. Start each day by asking a single, powerful question. What version of myself am I activating right now? This question forces you to become present. It cuts through distraction and reconnects you with the role you're playing in your own reality. Don't answer it casually. Feel into it. Are you activating a version of yourself driven by fear, limitation, or are you activating the version of you that already lives in the future you desire? From there, shift into intention setting. Intent is more than a goal. It is a directional frequency. When you set an intention, you align your thoughts, emotions, and energy toward a specific possibility. That alignment becomes your signal. And the clearer your signal, the more responsive the field becomes. Each morning, write down one clear intention for the day. Not a wish or a vague hope, but a precise state of being. For example, today I remain emotionally stable and aligned with peace. I act from the identity of someone who is already successful. I see evidence that my energy is shaping my reality. These intentions are anchors. They don't force outcomes. They organize your awareness. Next comes emotional regulation. The quantum field responds most directly to your emotional baseline. Emotions carry charge. They create resonance. And they determine whether you are aligning with a timeline of expansion or contraction. Start practicing emotional mastery, not by suppressing your emotions, but by becoming aware of them in real time. The moment you feel anxiety, pause. Don't feed it with thought. Breathe. Recenter. Remind yourself, I am choosing the frequency of my reality. Use your breath as a tool. Conscious breathing stabilizes your nervous system and grounds your energy. Inhale deeply through the nose. Hold. Exhale slowly through the mouth. Do this 5 times. This alone can shift your frequency and prevent an emotional dip from locking you into an unwanted version of your day. The next step is visual coherence. Visualization is more than imagining a future. It's about rehearsing it internally until it becomes emotionally familiar. The more often you feel into your desired reality, the less it feels distant. And the moment it stops feeling future tense, you begin aligning with it now. Here's a simple practice. Sit quietly, close your eyes, picture one scene from the reality you desire. Not abstract success, specific embodiment. What are you doing? What are you wearing? What does the air smell like? What emotion is in your body? Then amplify that emotion. Let it spread through your system until you feel completely immersed in that moment. Now anchor it with one phrase, something short and clear, like, "This is who I am now. I've already arrived. This is my natural state." Repeat the phrase while holding the image and the emotion. This combination sends a coherent signal, mental, emotional, energetic, into the field. The more often you practice this, the more magnetized your timeline becomes. Let's now introduce behavioral alignment. All energy practices must translate into action. Otherwise, the field receives mixed signals. If you visualize success but behave like a person avoiding risk, your signal is scattered. To shift realities, your behavior must match the version of you you're trying to become. This doesn't mean drastic life changes overnight. It means making small, consistent decisions that are congruent with your desired identity. Ask yourself, what would that version of me say in this situation? What habits does that version practice daily? What boundaries does that version maintain? Then act accordingly. Not later. Now. Each time you take an action aligned with your chosen identity, you reinforce your signal. You strengthen your entanglement with that version of reality. And over time, your external world reshapes itself to match. Another key tool: detachment from old evidence. You cannot shift into a new timeline if you're constantly reacting to the conditions of the current one. When you give power to old circumstances, you stabilize the old timeline. This is where many people get stuck. They do the inner work, but the moment reality reflects something contradictory, they revert to their previous vibration. Train yourself to observe without attachment. Reality is not a final verdict. It's a delayed reflection of your past state. If you see something you don't like, don't panic. Don't interpret. Remind yourself, this is the echo of who I was. It does not define who I'm becoming. This awareness allows you to remain in the new frequency, even when the old reality hasn't fully dissolved. Finally, we arrive at the practice of nighttime programming. The moments before sleep are powerful. Your brain transitions into theta waves, a deeply suggestible state. This is when the subconscious is most open, and your subconscious is the filter through which all manifestation occurs. Before you fall asleep, re-enter your visualization. Recall the feeling of your future self. Rehearse it emotionally. Speak it internally. Let it be the final signal you send before drifting off. In that state, you impress the desired reality onto your subconscious and strengthen your entanglement with it. Repeat this nightly. It is one of the fastest ways to shift timelines. Now let's consolidate all of this into one daily practice. A practical, repeatable ritual for shifting reality through quantum alignment. Morning alignment. Ask, who am I activating today? Set a clear intention for your emotional or energetic state. Emotional stabilization. Practice breathwork when triggered. Choose your emotional response deliberately. Focused visualization. Spend 5 to 10 minutes daily in a coherent emotional scene. Anchor it with a phrase and repeat it until it feels true. Behavioral consistency. Make one decision each day aligned with your future identity. Detached observation. Interpret external conditions as feedback, not facts. Redirect attention to the reality you're building. Nighttime reinforcement. Feel your future self before sleep. Drift off in emotional resonance with your new timeline. This is not a formula. It's a framework. The more consistently you practice it, the more you begin to feel the shift. Not just intellectually, but viscerally. You start noticing synchronicities, emotional clarity, spontaneous ideas, and aligned opportunities. These are not anomalies. They are confirmations. You're not bending the laws of the universe. You're aligning with them. So as you move forward, let this be your understanding. You are already entangled with the future. You are not waiting for it. You are aligning with it. You are not observing a static world. You are shaping a living one. And that world is listening. Right now.